Hey podcast world, this is Ramon Sanchez. I'm a licensed clinical social worker out in California and host of Destigmatize, a roundtable mental health podcast where professionals I know, members of my community, and some of my friends can discuss topics worth destigmatizing. For this episode, I've invited a true pioneer of Chicano rap and a West Coast legend representing the 619, Jose Anguiano, also known as Mr. Shadow. Since he first hit the scene in the late 90s, Shadow has been a definitive voice for the streets, known for his raw lyricism and putting San Diego on the map with classics like Till I Die and What Goes Around Comes Around. He's an artist who has navigated the height of the industry and the realities of the hood, all while maintaining a career that has spanned over 2 decades. Shadow agreed to join me on this episode because he recognizes that the conversations we're having here are overdue. As a veteran in the game, he understands that true strength isn't just about what you survive on the outside, but how you handle the weight on the inside. We're going to dive into the intersections of culture, the grind, and the mental resilience it takes to keep pushing forward when the world expects you to fail. And now, here's our episode. Destigmatized Mental Health Podcast, Season 5, Episode 3. We're here with Mr. Shadow. Mr. Shadow, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course, man. Shadow, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Mr. Shadow 619. On TikTok, you got to spell out Mr. Shadow 619. And every other platform, Mr. Shadow 619. That's pretty much it. MrShadow.com.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to find you. I reached out to you earlier and during the week, and before we even get started and get into it, man, I really want to go ahead and give you your flowers. I've been listening to your career since the late 90s. You've definitely been a voice for the 619 for 2 decades. Your impact here in the 661, where I'm from in Bakersfield, in the Valley, it runs just as deep. People grew up hearing your music and they saw their lives in your lyrics when nobody else was looking. And I really want to thank you for the work that you've done for our community, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you guys, And like I always say, I wouldn't be Shadow without all you guys. So I appreciate the support. Much love to everyone who's been following me for these 30 years.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I've been listening to you for 20 of those 30, man. So with that said, can you share what brought you to the world of Chicano rap and what that journey has looked like for you personally?
Well, I mean, just me being Chicano automatically makes me a Chicano rapper, right? So, I've embraced it and ran with it. Only thing I've always asked is like why they categorize our music. Not that I don't like them calling me a Chicano rapper or nothing. It's just a question that I've always had because they don't categorize other people. So why they categorize me? But it's all good though. Our movement is big. It's so big that we created its own genre. And people might not like it, but they do respect it. So that's what it is.
I was actually literally going to ask you about that, just kind of that curiosity for me as to when you hear the term Chicano rap, how you feel about that. I guess for me, my thoughts are that it's placed in its own category when no other race or ethnicity has that. What are your thoughts there?
Right, and that's the beauty of it, But at the same time, it keeps us out of certain circles because of that term. But now more than ever, we got to embrace it and love our ethnicity and all our Chicanos and Chicanas and our Mexican history because, the times we're living in, we got to stand together. We're bigger in numbers.
Absolutely agreed. Everything that's happening in the political climate and just in the world, it's disheartening to say the least, man.
Yeah.
Shadow, you've been in this industry for 30 years. One thing that I've noticed about legends who have this level of longevity is that the hustle evolves. Looking at where you are today compared till the Till I Die days or that era, how has your focus shifted when it comes down to that daily circle and energy that allows that you allow around you? Is it different type of mission nowadays, or do you feel like you kind of keep that same flow?
No, absolutely. As far as me personally, um, I like to be alone. As I grew older, in the beginning, yeah, I had a bunch of people around me, and you know, I had homies from different neighborhoods and people from the industries. But as I got older and I started to cherish my time with my children and my family more, the more I want to get away from that. And now if I travel with my family, my wife, my daughter, my other daughters, my son. So, I'm a family man. I'm not a 40-year-old out in the streets running amok no more,
I that's what
Especially after my second stroke. Uh, I live every day like it's my last because it's literally like that. You feel me? So I gotta make sure I stay grounded and I stay around, not get in trouble or, there's still haters out there, So the old me doesn't want to come out. I want to keep them there.
Yeah, I get that. And a lot of people don't believe me. I look different compared to what I did back in the day. And and we'll talk about that. A lot of my clients, I'm a therapist now, I'm a licensed clinical social worker. But back in the day, man, I was running the streets, and people really don't believe that life or that part of my life. And so I definitely understand with what you're saying. And I think for me, I think my reason may be pretty similar to yours. I feel like for me, it was really important to, because the path that I was going, it was going to lead me, but behind bars. And but I always knew I wanted to help my raza, and I took that initiative to be like, you know what, I have to do something a little bit different. And but there's still a part of me, there's still a part of my heart that belongs to the streets, because
Absolutely.
that's just who I am.
That's who we are.
Absolutely, man.
But now we have children, we have families, and I want to be here every day to tell my children I love them like I do, and just enjoy life, not having to look over my back. I sleep comfortable at night.
Yeah, and that's the really good thing that doesn't exist for a lot of people. And I hope that, the people that do listen to this episode kind of have those deeper conversation, have that level of insight. But in our community, especially within the Chicano culture, the rap game, there is often a huge pressure to be hard or invincible. From your perspective, what are some of the unique strengths that you've seen in the community when it comes down to resilience? And on the flip side, how does that tough exterior that you and I were just talking about make it difficult to talk about the emotional struggles that we may be dealing with on the inside?
Oh, because like you said, they see the tattoos, they see the shaved head, they know the history, and they're like, "What do you mean? Are you soft now?" No, if anything, I'm stronger because I'm, you know, taking into consideration not just my feelings, but my children's and my mother's, and now I know the grief I used to put her through. Even though my kids, they're not into gang banging or nothing like that. But if they're home late or something, I'm like, oh, where are they at? Are they okay? So now I start to understand what my mom and dad used to go through when I was younger. And I learned to appreciate the little things. Waking up in the morning, smelling a fresh cup of coffee, enjoying just the day that God gives us, man. Just look around you. It's beautiful sunshine, flowers, birds, my dogs. I mean, little things.
Absolutely, man. And I think that's why, there's this one song that you made, man, and that's what hooked me. It's called What Goes Around Comes Around. And I was literally thinking about that the other day, and that's what made me reach out to you, man. But a lot of your lyrics deal with the raw, real life experiences. especially that song to me, man, that it hits different. As a therapist, I often see people use art to process trauma. Do you feel that music has been a form of therapy for you? And how do you navigate the weight of the stories that you are telling without allowing it to pull you under?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, everything that I've written and recorded, it's things I'm doing, things I've done. So to release them and not keep them bottled up in me is therapeutic. Some people, some people's minds aren't capable of dealing with those type of things, and it's bottled up, and they get depressed or emotional or whatever the case may be. But for me, that was my outlet. You know, I experimented a lot of different ways throughout my career. Like, I don't know if you heard, when I was into drugs and alcohol, like real deep, I would go write a song in the cemetery. I mean, as crazy as that sounds, I would go and take some hallucinogenics and go to the cemetery and write songs like the songs from Born Without a Conscience. That whole album, I wasn't in my right mind. So definitely was an outlet, is an outlet to release whatever emotions or experiences I was going through. Like, there's songs I did for my children. There's songs I did for my parents. There's songs I did about gangbanging. Songs I did about uh, street hustling, whether it was drugs or guns. So yeah, absolutely helped me, you know, uh, stay sane.
Makes a lot of sense, man. Thanks for sharing that level of vulnerability, especially that album. I'm a huge fan of not just your work, but a lot of Chicano artists. It's different, man, and I listen to a lot of your music. So being able to go ahead and recognize that it's going to go ahead and that album is going to hit deeper having this conversation, man. In my practice as a licensed clinical social worker, and I started this business called Cultura Mental Health because I believe that within our culture, not just our culture, but various other cultures, mental health really isn't discussed. But I work with a lot of our raza. Sometimes I have a client come in and they're hesitant to talk. And I usually tell them straight up, look, I know more about that lifestyle than you think that I do. And that's when they know what I'm saying and I'm not just talking,
Right.
you know, and they could see it. That's usually the moment they finally exhale and open up. In your music and in your life, how important is that unspoken understanding? Do you find that people come to you for advice now because they know that you've lived the chapters that they're currently stuck in?
It's crazy you say that because a lot of times I do get messages. Back then, when there was no internet, I would get letters from a lot of homies that were locked up and people that weren't locked up, and talk about how they can relate to my music, how it spoke to them and it helped them through some dark times or whatever. And I see it a lot in our raza that hold back a lot. And I think that has to do with pride or insecurity. They don't want to, they're like, oh, well, I want this person to think this way of me. But if they knew that releasing all that gives you like a breath of fresh air, consciously it helps you, emotionally it helps you. And all those relate to physically helping you, not feeling down or, discouraged or alone. I do think that people who do relate to music, it's because they're living it, going through it. And that one song might just give them some hope.
Yeah, for sure. I think that a lot of your earlier work definitely resonates with that. And then the most recent album that I got, back in tune with you was I'm Done, Bring It Back, which was released in 2025. And you also did a track with Ice Cube as well as Coke, right? Uh,
Oh, yeah, cocaine and be real.
yeah, yeah. So that was a certified G, and that is completely it's a different, you know, tune than what you were, than what you did back in the days. And so it's cool that you're working on. I mean, of course, you've been out of the lifestyle, but it's a different message than what it used to be.
Pretty much saying that we've been there, done that. We're certified G's. We lived what they're rapping about. Like we really lived it,
Yeah,
you know, and that was just me being my 13, 14, 15-year-old self with the 12 gauge pump under my mom's couch. You know, you could ask her. That's a true story.
yeah,
I couldn't fake it if I tried, bro.
yeah. No, yeah, man, I get it. And I hear so many stories nowadays, similarly. It's really interesting here in Bakersfield. It's there's word that's kind of going around that I have some understanding of the lifestyle. And now I have some OGs that have done hard time, and they come to me because they've heard of me and the work that I've done and that I'm doing. And it's something different for our community that's been in our lifestyle, that they've spent their majority of their lives in that lifestyle, but now they're just so tired, and they want to be better for themselves, for their kids and their grandkids, and they want to learn how to actually communicate instead of just being hard, like
Yeah.
what you and I had to do. And, I'm sure that for you as a father and as a veteran of the game, how you approach those challenges and breaking generational barriers and teaching the next generation how to handle their emotions is way different than when you and I were kids.
Yeah, it definitely is, man. You know, for me as a kid, when I was 6, 7 years old, I grew up with a dad who, if I told him that I loved him, he would tell me, "Don't tell me that, that's for faggots." Just that stern Mexican dad, macho, you know? Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I'm the total opposite. I love my dad, rest in peace. Don't get me wrong, but I feel proud every time I tell my kids that I love them. I'll walk by my youngest daughter's bedroom on my way out of my bedroom, and I'll be like, "I love you, baby." I'll text my daughter and my son, "I love you guys." You know what I'm saying? Because I know how I felt when my dad would tell me that, and I expected and "I love you" back. Never got it. So that's one thing I told myself I would never do. I told myself I would always do it as much as I could, and that's what I do, man. It's not good, you know what I'm saying? That broke me down. I'd be sitting there watching TV with my dad. I'd be like, "Hey, pops, I love you." "Oh, don't tell me that. Don't. That's for faggots." But in Spanish, and it sounds even worse.
I heard it's
He'd
different.
be like, yeah, he's like, "No me digas esto, es pa jotos." Yeah. So I was like, man, I don't want my kids to feel the way I'm feeling right now.
Uh,
So I'm the total opposite, man. I let them know that I love them and that I'm here for them.
and you knew that at such a young age that you just wanted to do different from your dad, even though you have love and respect for your pops. It's also
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna go ahead and do the complete opposite of what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly, man. And like I said, I don't hold it against him. I wish it would have been different. I think I would have liked the way I would have felt if I heard that from him.
Yeah.
But I took everything else from him: hardworking, not being lazy, being committed, everything except that.
Yeah. Because there's good characteristics of your dad, which is why you have love for him. But there were also some things that I was just like, yo, like where is this coming from? Or why is this even showing up?
You know what's crazy? And I never told this to anybody, maybe some close friends, but the only time that I felt my dad was proud of me was when I was 15 years old. And he used to go party with his homies on Fridays and Saturdays. They'd get together at the homie's house and they would drink. He wasn't into gangs or nothing. He was a straight Mexican from Mexico.
Yeah, just pisteando.
Yeah, pisteando, listening to corridos, you know.
Yeah.
And one time he came home, like scared, but anxious and frustrated. Like, hey, son, they try to kill me right now. In Spanish, of course, you know.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, some dude over there pulled up and got into some stuff with my guys, and I got into it, and he tried stabbing me. I was like, what? And back then, I was still acting,
Yeah.
you know. So I told my dad, well, let's go. I grabbed my bag, and we got in the car, and we went over there. So this guy was driving a nice 65 Ford Mustang. Super cherry, like showroom clean. As my dad went in there and called him out, I went to work on the car. Windshield, windows, lights, doors. I was just smashing me, right?
Yeah.
And then the guy comes out and he's like, what? What's going on? So I walk up to him and I tell him, oh, you try to stab my dad? Well, he has people that respond for him and watch over him. And I picked him in the knees and rest is history.
Right.
Then my dad's like, okay, yeah, leave him alone. So we get in the car and we speed off to the house. On the way there, he was like a little kid. Like, yeah, that's my son. That's why I love you. I'm like, what? I was thinking to myself, this is what I gotta do to get a I love you out of you. Crazy. We could have both went to jail right now.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy that it took that for him to reach in his heart and be like, I'm proud of you. I love you. When my music came out and I told him, hey, Dad, look, I'm recording an album. I'm going to make people know who Jose Anguiano is. You know what I'm saying? And like, cállate, cabrón. And this and that. And he didn't believe me, doubted me. Finally, the CD got done. And I approached him with a physical copy that I had signed over to him and I dedicated to him. And he was like, oh, cool, man. You weren't lying. I said, no. He goes, so this is what you want to do? I said, this is what I'm going to do. And then I walked off. And yeah, man, it's been crazy.
Yeah, man. How giving your dad that album, man, I'm sure that must have felt really good. And for those that really don't understand that may be listening to this episode, creating an album back then was not as easy as it is now. The resources did not exist. It was super expensive. There were lots of sacrifices that needed to go ahead and get done. And being able to go ahead and get picked up by a label, you made it. And that's nowadays, we could create our own labels. I created this podcast platform. I have this, mic that this mic within itself would have cost thousands upon thousands of dollars. And I got it for chump change in comparison to that, so the sacrifices that were made and being able to go ahead and obtain that album, people need to understand that was, you made it. It's done. It was cemented. And, now people could upload shit on Apple Podcasts or Apple and Spotify. And it's not, it wasn't that back then. Is that fair to say, Shadow?
Absolutely. You had to really know somebody who had a professional recording studio so that you can make professional music. And I got to give my boy Hitman from my neighborhood his flowers because he made it happen. We went from selling drugs and guns. We took money and put it into some beats and made till I die.
Yeah.
And, off of that, 30 years later, here I am. So if it wasn't for him driving me to the studio, driving me to shows and these labels and everything else, man, I don't know what would have happened, but my boy Hitman had a lot to do with the beginning of Shadow.
Yeah, man. And that's awesome that you're able to do that and to get that. And then when your dad was able to go ahead and see that and your family was able to go ahead and see that success, I'm assuming that the response was a little bit different than what you
Oh,
expected.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, even for the first time when I was on the radio at Jam 90 here in San Diego, it was on a Sunday, bro, and me and my boy Hitman just swung for the fence and said, let's go to the station on a Sunday and see what we can get out of these people. Thank God that people opened the door. Lisa Vasquez, to be exact, the program director, and gave me that 1 minute in her office on a Sunday, you know, because that day I called my sisters, my brother, my mom, my dad, and I told them all to put it on Z90 because I was about to be on the radio after commercials. And that was crazy, man. That was the beginning of my career.
That's awesome, man. I'm glad to hear that.
And then after that, they put me on rotation on the radio, and both my mom and my dad would come like, I was over here and I heard somebody bumping your song on the radio. Yeah, man.
Yeah, no, man, that's awesome. That's awesome stuff, man. And again, people that may be listening to this podcast, it's like, man, on the radio, that's it. No, man, that was everything back in the day. That was
Oh, yeah,
everything. So the sacrifices that were made, man, it's awesome. Thanks for sharing that story.
of course.
Um, I want to get real about, kind of the streets and the systems, and it feels like every election cycle, we see these politicians using immigration reform as a talking point to get elected. And they use their own they use us and our own self-destruction, the violence in our streets, as the proof that they need to keep pushing for those agendas. From where you stand, how do we make the homies realize that we're out here taking out each other? We're actually giving the people who hate us exactly what they want. Is unity the only way to take that weapon out of their hands, or what would you say to that?
Absolutely. You know, the more I get older, bro, I started to realize that there's no community without unity, and vice versa. There's no unity without the community. And the word unity isn't community. So it definitely is the way to make these politicians think twice about what they're going to say or what they're going to do, and stop their agenda because they lie to us left and right to make us look like the bad person, you know? And it's the total opposite, man. And I think we're stronger in numbers, and we just got to show them that they're wrong. There's a person inside these bodies that care about family, care about the community, care about the rasta, the culture, and everything else that comes with it. So, I don't like to get political, but this administration right now is trash. And yeah, man, it's getting crazy, bro. It's ugly.
Yeah.
Like, what are my grandkids gonna be brought into? My daughter's about to get married. I know they want to have kids. But she's told me herself that she's scared to bring a kid into this world that we're living in.
Oh,
That not only deprives her and her husband, deprives me, my family, you know, it deprives the community of more people that are going to be born into it. It's just a ripple effect, bro. And they don't give a shit about us.
yeah, man. And I think that's the thing that's hard for me, and why I'm doing this. To me, back then it was about, well, here in the 661, man, it's a little bit smaller than the 619. So it's, we kind of have our own our cities, where that's our barrio. So then
Right.
we rep our barrio, and for me it was, it was Shafter, and we would we would just like intentionally just kind of go out and cause chaos towards like other cities for no reason. Like looking back at it, it's like really no reason whatsoever.
Yeah. I mean, I have homies from Tulare. I have homies from up there in Central Cali,
Yeah.
and I get it, but most of the turmoil off there, the turmoil is over the Southsiders and the Northerners.
Yeah, the norteños, sureños, yeah.
Yeah, because they live in each other's areas, right?
Yeah.
And Pixley and all those areas, man. But right now isn't the time to be bickering over petty stuff, man.
It's not. And that's the message that I feel like I want to go ahead and try to get across. I think for me it was really difficult to simply be part of something that, simply because of two colors, that the red and the blue, that is what the conflict was about. And there was so much more. There's so much more into it. It's not simply that, but as a young man kind of growing up, it kind of felt like that. And I was like, come on, man. So now I look at it as an adult, and it's like, at the end of the day, there's no red, there's no blue, there's no purple. We're brown, we're black, like at end of the day, we could be yellow, purple. It doesn't matter. Let's just all come together as minorities, become the majority, and fucking take over. And that's just my 2 cents. I don't know how you feel about that.
I mean, just because of who I am and the way that I was brought up and, things I represented, I'm not saying to hold hands and sing kumbaya. You know what I'm saying? Just mind your own business and don't make that the mission. You don't have to go out hunting for people and trying to prove something to somebody. Prove something to your family.
Yeah.
Prove to them that you could be a man, and run your home and love your children and just spread love. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're living in biblical times, bro. And a lot of people might not believe me, or they might be like, oh, this was turning Christian. No, I am Christian, a proud Christian. I put God before anything. Then I put myself and then my family, because that's the way the Bible says. And I hope the older they get, they realize that they wasted a lot of time and a lot of years worried about some bullshit.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
man, there's bigger problems that we need to deal with. I always say that down his hood is fatherhood. You want to be a real gangster, take care of your kids, take
Yeah.
care of your house and your family.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I just encourage people to really look at when the death of Rodney King, and when the red bandana, the blue bandana were tied together, and it was that was a form of unity, man. That was
Right.
deep, and I hope that with everything that's happening in today's political climate, again, like you said, no kumbaya. We just need to go ahead and just come together. This isn't the time to go ahead and engage in that. But yeah, man. So with that said, for a long time, mental health was a dirty word in the barrio, but now it feels like, a real G move is actually taking care of your mental and taking care of your mind so that you could stay in the game longer. What was the moment for you when you realized that protecting your peace was just as important as protecting your name?
It would have to be when I had my first stroke in 2009. I realized how vulnerable and how things could change from one day to another. I think that made me realize there's more important things to appreciate, to take care of, more important things to live for, and I knew that God was telling me to slow down, to check myself and appreciate everything that He's given me, like a second chance at life, like restoring me when I had paralysis on my face. And if I didn't tell you I had a stroke, you wouldn't be able to tell. But that's how good my God is.
Yeah. We share a passion for men's mental health. There's a lot of silent struggles amongst men who feel that they have to provide and protect at all cost. What would you say to the man who is listening right now, who feels the weight of the world on his shoulders, but feels that he can't speak up because it might look like weakness?
Like I said earlier, it don't make you weak. It makes you strong to be able to talk about it, address it, fix it, and make it right. It doesn't make you weak. Just like people think, oh, if you're crying, you're a man, it means you're a sissy or you're weak. No, man. That's loving yourself and being real. It's not. There's nothing wrong with crying or nothing wrong to confiding into somebody about something you might be going through. Put that pride aside and put yourself first. If you need help, get you that help. Don't hesitate, because sometimes when you don't take care of your mental health, you might make some stupid decisions. You might act on emotions, and that's the worst thing you could do.
For sure.
So, I absolutely encourage anyone, whether a young man or a seasoned man, if you need help, don't hesitate to get out and get it.
Shadow, this conversation was overdue. It's an honor to have a pioneer like you helping us bridge that gap between the streets and healing our community's needs. As we wrap up, if there's one message or key piece of advice that you want our listeners to take away about destigmatizing mental health, what would that be?
Get help if you need it, but the most important of all, start that relationship with God. That's ultimately who's going to save you. Not just from your mental health, but from everything. That's it.
Shadow, once again, how could the people connect with you? How could people reach out to you? How do people hear your music?
Man, just Google me. It'll pop up. All my platforms, all the social media sites, it'll all come up. MrShadow.com, if you want to get some merch. But other than that, if you Google me, I promise you, it'll pop up.
Shadow, it's a true honor to speak to you, man. This is honestly, I didn't think that this would happen, man. And I'm glad that this is you, Little Rob, here locally at Blackie. You guys were, pioneers for me when it came down to Chicano rap. So I definitely want to give you your flowers, man. And I'm super glad we had this conversation.
I mean, too, bro. And, thank you for having me. Thank you for what you're doing for our people. And I wish you all the success in the world, bro.
Awesome. So this was the Stigmatized Mental Health Podcast, Season 5, Episode 3, highlighting legacy, resilience, and the 619 to 661 connection with Mr. Shadow. You can listen to this episode and past episodes of Destigmatized Mental Health Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. And we're also on YouTube. Shadow, thank you so much for your time and everything you do for La Raza. We'll keep in touch, my guy.
Will do. Much love.